let's jump back over to the business side and starting your own company. You talked a little bit on kind of freelancing to start and then building it up. When did you have that decision to make it full time and not just a freelance gig?
Oh man. I've always been Miss sign up for everything. I want to do it all for sure. It would be silly of me to tell you, well, it's not in my personality to just start a business.
I took a quiz and it said to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I was like, "Ooh, you seem like you could do this." I've always been, entrepreneur curious, if you will, but never really had the push to just do it. And if I'm going to be completely vulnerable, my last company I worked with had layoffs, and I was a part of those. And it was devastating. It was one of those where I was like, "Wait a minute, I did everything right, and I had just gotten a raise and a bonus, and we won work. Like, I don't understand." And I had remembered, and this is kind of a side note that I love telling this because anyone who's been let go kind of knows that feeling, or anyone who's left a job that it was hard. There's a center called the Women's Business Development Center in Chicago. And I was living in Chicago at the time. And I had a friend who was starting a jewelry business. And she was a jeweler in the Chicago jeweler district. And she was like, "Well, if you ever want to, join me on this journey," I really thought about it. And I was like, "Okay, well, entrepreneur wise, this would be new for me, but I'm curious. I have a great job, probably not going to leave that, but let's look into this." So the Women's Business Development Center, which there are, WeBank it's kind of the federal term for it. They're all over the country and in all major cities. If you are a woman and you want to start a business, go to your go to that center, find your local one because they'll help you. So they had a starting a business 101 workshop one night. Again, I was employed, looking to help a friend, and I went to that workshop. And the worksheet itself said, "Do you have family in this line of work?" This was for jewelry. "No, I don't." My friend did. I did not. "Do you have an education in this? Do you have experience with partnerships in this?" And the final one was, "Have you ever been fired?" And it was very interesting to see on a questionnaire to say if you were ready to be an entrepreneur. And you got a point towards being an entrepreneur if you had been fired. So basically, they were saying they noticed that there is an affiliation with entrepreneurs and the ability to experience risk or to experience loss. And I will say the day that I was let go, that was the first thing that came to my mind is like, oh man, I've got nothing to lose. I could go try this now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could see where this goes. I had written, and 2 months before that, serendipitously, I had written down my whole book of business based on my experiences with my previous firms, and who I could call to potentially get work to do freelance proposals. And I was like, okay, I've literally done all the prep work for this. I have the education in it. I have the background in it. I have family in this too. Not that that was necessarily what I needed, but now I finally have this one piece where I was let go and I am much more available to take a risk. And so I did. And I called all of those contacts from that list. I landed 3 clients within that first month. And it was really hard. It was just me. But I called a friend, my friend Jenna, who actually works with us now. She was an editor. And I was like, "Do you want to do this with me? Help me edit my proposals?" She said, "Sure." And then about 4 months later, we were getting more work. And Donna called me and was like, "You know what? I've done print. I've done QC. I've done all sorts of marketing. I'm leaving my agency. What do you need help with?" And then we really kicked it off from there. COVID hit within 7 months of us starting it. So you want to talk about like quick risk.
Timing.
But oh my gosh. I remember when it hit and we were just like, oh, cool. Now that we have a good book of business. So it hit, and there was this pause. And then when COVID we passed a little bit of COVID and got into the end of 2020, phones were ringing off the hook. People needed to win work and get back to work. They had laid off their marketing teams. They needed us to help. So we really built a team off of that. We brought in team members that were great when we were a small company and we were young and we had smaller clients. We grew out of that. We got bigger clients. I would say the hardest part of business ownership is realizing you may have to let people go, realizing that you may have to hire a different type of talent to get to the next level. And I would say that lesson, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, if I'm going to be honest. If you were to ask me to go back and start the business over and go through everything I've gone through in the past 4 years, I would say absolutely not. But I'm here today and I love it. I stuck with it. I think Donna and I are hard-headed. We were willing to work for half of our worth to get us to where we are. So you just have to love, I feel like if you're owning a business, you have to love the idea of owning a business more than the idea of being rich and successful.
Yeah. And it's not about getting everything perfect either.
No.
So even though you say you wouldn't redo everything as you did over the last 4 years, it's still created who you are today. And decisions, oftentimes you have to take a risk to open up your own business, but you also have to take risks along the way to learn how to grow, but understand when you need to pivot. And if something's not working, and accept, hey, that didn't work. What did I learn from it? Where do I need to go and move from here?
Yeah. Well, and there's a great way to look at it. It's either pivot, don't say, like, you either pivot, you don't say no, or you don't change. And so you can't, or pivot, quit, or don't change. And you can't quit. If you want to be successful, you just have to, there has to be this endurance that's psychotic, if I'm going to be honest. They often say, like, business owners are psychotic, and the more I get into this, the more I'm like, oh my God, of course they are. You can't be fazed by putting people's livelihoods on the line because you have to build the business up for the other employees. Which I am fazed. I'm an emotional person. I have feelings. I've been fired. I know how that feels. I hate that part. You have to let clients go that are tough on your people, but then fill that pipeline. And your staff doesn't see they're just kind of like, this is a tough client. Why aren't we getting rid of them? Well, do you want your paycheck? So there has to be this crazy sense of endurance that's borderline psychotic. And you have to be okay making really hard decisions that impact your life and other people's lives and their business. And you have to just have this, like, grit. You can't say no. You just don't stop. You don't, because you don't want to. And I don't want to. I would say Donna and I are both very like, yep, this month sucks. We didn't get to pay ourselves. Anyways, next month will be better. Whereas a lot of people, rightfully so, would be like, I'm done. Go get me a constant paycheck. I want my life. I want consistency. So there is this, you just have to kind of accept endurance, because it takes, what did Donna say the other day? She's like, you can become an overnight success in about 10 years. So there is, you have to have that endurance. We both have really good partners that have supported us through it. Most really good entrepreneurs have a network that they're using, whether it's family or friends. But man, it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Check out the full discussion from this bite of advice here. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on more mentorDINO content.